What's your...
Okay. Okay, what?
Good morning, it's Ton with Our Ambitious City. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited for this show. We are hitting the roads and the streets of Hamilton. We're talking to Hamilton's finest, the ambitious people that keep this city running. And so I'm excited to share not only about what they do, but who they are and share their stories. So this morning, I'm very excited to have Tammy Hwang of the Commotion family group of companies. Well, we'll get into that, what that is. And so really, please, thank you so much, Tammy, for agreeing to come on our show. And let's go back. I always love going back to the beginning. So I understand you were born in Toronto. And so how long did you spend in Toronto?
Honestly, I don't even remember. It's literally in Toronto. Right. Just like most immigrant families, they come over. My parents came from Taiwan.
Taiwan, okay.
They came over and they started to settle in Toronto. Okay. And but then they just soon realized Toronto's just full of people and not really that awesome. so they found a spot in Hamilton, and I moved to Hamilton.
Now, did they speak Taiwanese in the house?
No, they spoke Mandarin.
Mandarin, okay.
So that's how I learned how to listen and read. Sorry, not read, but like listen and speak Mandarin.
How many languages do you speak?
Just English and Mandarin.
English and Mandarin. So then you came to Hamilton.
Yeah.
So quite a young age, and then so you just went schooling around here. What schools did you attend then?
Anne Cunningham in the East End, then Memorial and middle school, and then Delta Secondary.
Delta Secondary, okay, just one right here.
And then McMaster University.
And how was that experience? You know, an Asian family in Hamilton, which is predominantly, we know, is kind of the Italian Portuguese. I know there is diversity, but back then probably not as much as today. What was that like growing up in school, and did you somewhat stand out amongst the crowd, or how were you accepted?
So my parents were the Asian family that owned the corner store.
Okay.
So you gotta understand that being the Asian family that owned the corner store became a meeting place for a lot of people, and a lot of my all of my school friends, they actually went to my corner store to actually buy penny candies and rent movies. So it was kind of like that, like
great
weird little hangout. Right?
Yeah.
And but when my sister and I went to school, we were the only Asian kids in a predominantly white school. Okay. Which you would think that there was going to be issues, but because we were the Asian family that owned the corner store, so it felt like there wasn't that problem.
No,
right?
Great. And you kind of had a little bit of a status there.
A little bit, yeah.
Nice, okay.
But at the same time, there was a little bit of pressure because we were the Asian kids.
Right, okay.
That had to do really well.
Well, in school, you had that stigma attached to you, okay, for sure.
So all we had to do was just excel at school. So we ended up, my sister and I, again, we were the Hwang girls, right? So everybody knew us because, again, Asian family that owned the store. Sure. But we were also the ones that did really well in school and that sort of
thing. So you made yourself known for a couple of ways, and then went through school and then on to university right here in Hamilton.
Yeah. So McMaster University, saving money, going to school in Hamilton. Yeah. It was went to school for commerce and had a fantastic time, and
So we were talking a little bit earlier about your experience in commerce, and my question to you was, do you feel that the program in commerce at McMaster really prepared you to do what you're doing now, and you had a good response for that?
So in school, you always learn the basics and the fundamentals, and you learn about how to think and how to work with people. However, what you have is you have all of this experience in the classroom. You don't necessarily have an opportunity to leverage that and go into the real world. Right. One of those defining types of moments for me was working for the McMaster Solar Car Project. Okay. McMaster Solar Car Project at the time was a rag-a-tag sort of group of engineers that wanted to build a car and make it sustainable.
And this is the one with the solar panels on top. Exactly. And very cool. Okay. Exactly. What was your role?
So I was the only business student on a whole team of engineering students. Okay. I was one of the few women in a group of all dudes. Okay. That was also the first time I've ever experienced dude stench. Never have I experienced that before in my life.
Okay. Because you grew up with sister, right?
Well, okay, so it's also like when people talk about dudes, now I get it, right? So anyway.
That's awesome.
But Solar Car Project was also that time when I could actually really take what I had learned in the classroom and actually apply it somewhere else. And it was funny because all my engineering teammates said the same thing, only about engineering, so that they would learn about all these engineering concepts, but actually build a car out of those concepts, right? So by the time when I came on board, they were looking at raising some money, they were looking at sustainable funding, they were looking at building a brand new car.
Wow.
So I helped them with creating a student levy, which in perpetuity now, the Solar Car Project will now have $18,000.
I think that's amazing. It's perpetuity, so it's just a kind of a fee, a tax on students, but it's going towards this program.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And
What a creative idea.
We ended up building a car that was technically a space-age car.
And you said, what was the value again of that car when you
It
were
was
done?
$689,000.
Over $500,000
Yeah.
value, just because of all the sponsorships and everything that you put into it. Amazing. So that gave you a real good, successful start, feeling, you know what I mean, getting in there, and probably encouraged you. So where did that propel you after you graduated from university then?
So after graduating, I was like, you know what, I'm a commerce kid. I think I gotta go to Toronto and get the big job in Toronto.
Okay.
I live in Toronto.
Right. The dream.
The dream,
Yes.
right? Went to Toronto, got the job in Toronto, lived in Toronto, loved living in Toronto, and I just said there has to be more to life than this.
Wow.
And so I ended up moving to China.
Okay.
So I moved to China with a buddy of mine. For the first year we actually taught English. I learned that teaching is a noble profession.
Noble, good word.
Very honorable.
Yes.
I'm not cut out for it.
So you're a noble person, but okay, not cut out for it. Okay.
And you know what, I don't mind teaching. I do a lot of facilitation work now, leading workshops now, but I wasn't cut out for teaching young children.
Classroom.
Like whether it's like grade 2 to grade 5.
Yes.
And
Ditto for me. Ditto for me.
Yeah.
Yes, got
You're
it.
trying to teach them how to say elephant in English, and you find yourself on the floor, on all fours with this arm.
Right.
I was
That's
like,
awesome.
that, when we speak about defining moments, that was one of those times where I was like, I don't think I'm kind of this.
Yes. So again, turning point.
Yeah.
All right.
But I ended up staying in China for another 3 years.
Wow.
And that's when I picked up a lot of consulting gigs around consulting for the same private school that I was teaching at, consulting for financial leasing. So in China, there's a lot of small light industrial manufacturing, and frankly, Chinese business owners also need money in order to buy a manufacturing.
So you're doing fund development for them.
I was doing that, and I was also doing green building services, so helping them create internal sort of systems, like essentially selling, right? So doing a whole bunch of that. So that's where a lot of my a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit came in, because I'm an English speaker. Yes, I speak Mandarin, but I was essentially a foreigner doing business in China.
Yeah.
Even though Chinese people are my people, I didn't feel like I had actually grown up in China, so I didn't really understand all that stuff.
Yes.
So that's where you kind of have to learn. These are what customs are like. These are what business etiquette. This is how you talk to other people. How do you speak to business owners who make cajillions of dollars more than you, and yet you're still selling them millions of dollars worth of equipment?
And would I say in that culture, again, probably male dominant as well?
But I'm almost 6 feet tall, so as an Asian woman, I never had any issues when I was in
That's
China.
good for you.
Yeah, because in China, like all the men were much smaller than me. So even though I'm dealing with very powerful business men, my height and I'm a big girl too, so my height and my sort of stature was enough to command presence.
Okay. So you're a force to be reckoned with over there, and then you decide to come back after 3 years to come back to where? Hamilton?
Hamilton.
Okay.
Came back, short stint in Toronto, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but ended up working at Innovation Factory.
Okay, down in McMaster on Longwood.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, and what was your role with Innovation Factory?
So I was the client services manager, so technically my business card said that I was the experience manager.
Right.
And what that meant was I was working with all of the new startups. So I was typically like their first sort of line of contact. I would help them through getting government grants. I would help them with marketing and business strategy. I also helped them with operations, essentially organizing their business in such a way to actually set them up for growth.
Right.
And I worked really closely with other executives in order to help these startup businesses work. I also worked really closely with the angel and the investing sort of community, so I ended up getting
to partnering.
Working really closely with a lot of different government agencies and a lot of community organizations in order to help our startups.
So is this how you somewhat got networked into the community? Because I met you when you were at Innovation Factory, and basically everybody says, I know everybody in the city, Tammy knows everybody in this city. So is that how you got your start into networking and connecting with all the entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Now, what groups were you involved with outside of the Innovation Factory?
So part of the biggest ones was Startup Weekend. So Startup Weekend is a group out of the US that was doing 54-hour weekend events, essentially getting random people together to actually start businesses.
Amazing.
So I was a global facilitator. They actually sent me to Malaysia and Rio de Janeiro. And
no way.
so as a global facilitator, I really got a chance to really get into that global startup culture.
Right.
So there was that. I was a part of an organization called Strategizer, which does business model canvas. So business model canvas is essentially your business model on one sheet of paper.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for, on a strategy level, how do you manipulate the pieces within your business in order to make them work? You don't. The things that we talk about is like, what can you as an entrepreneur manipulate, and what are the things that you can directly influence?
Within your control.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like you can't control regulations or competition or anything like that. So take that off the table.
Right.
What can I do? Can I change my product? Can I change my service? Can I change my customers? Can I, like, all of those things are part of the business model canvas. So I got really involved with Strategizer, talking about the business model canvas. Now that becomes like my baby. I talk about that in terms of business strategy all the time.
Right.
And then here in Hamilton, it was part of Hamilton Hive.
Okay.
I had a nonprofit for a while called Strive Consulting, which was looking at how do I create management consulting teams out of young professionals and match them up with not-for-profits that require management consulting.
Okay.
So that was Strive Consulting. So,
wow. So many groups. And then I think you had a little stint with the Forge.
I did.
Yeah. Okay. So the Forge as well. So Innovation, the Forge, all these other groups. And now tell me a little bit what's happening. Right now we're coming to you from Commotion 302, which used to be called Platform 302, and now there's a family, of businesses. There's another one called Commotion on King. So share a little bit what these spaces do for Hamilton.
So we looked at what was happening internationally, and the nature of work is changing.
Yes.
When we think about how in the past our previous generation would have gotten into a job and was in that job for 30 years, they had a pension by the end of it. Our generation and the generation after us, so the millennials, we don't have that luxury anymore.
Right.
So we looked at what's happening globally, and the rise of co-working is happening, which is the rise of freelancing, the rise of being an entrepreneur. And one of the biggest challenges that a small business has is actually figuring out where they can actually conduct business.
Okay.
Because a lot of the times when they conduct business, they tend to conduct business out of their basement,
Right.
at their dining room table,
Sure.
and sometimes it's just not feasible to bring a client into your basement.
Exactly. Yes. A little creepy. I understand that. Okay.
Hey, Mr. So-and-so, you're going to give me
Come
a lot
on
of money?
down.
Come on down to my basement.
Exactly.
So when we looked at that trend, we said co-working's on the rise, and frankly, all of the major metropolitan cities in the world already had multiple co-working spaces.
Right. Like I remember in my day, there was something called Coffee Office and different places like that. So this is a new take on it, but more collaborative. You're wanting them to actually not just reside in the same space, but actually start working together on projects, right?
Yes.
So collaborative working. Okay.
So that's when Commotion Group came to be.
Commotion Group.
So when so my co-founders and I, we all met through different channels.
Okay.
So
And how many are there?
There are 6 to get all together
Six
now,
okay.
myself included.
Right.
The 4 original co-founders, so there's myself, Joe Accardi, Ryan Moran, and Chad Fullerton.
Okay.
And Joe and I first met way back when we were talking about Innovation Factory, and he had actually bought this location.
Space, yes.
And he said, I really want to do something interesting with this space. I'm not really sure what I want to do with it. Let's talk about co-working. And I was like, okay, Joe, I'll get back to you. 2 years later, we really, that was when I really did take a closer look at co-working.
Sure.
And that's when he said, hey, I've got this opportunity. What do you think?
Right.
And that's where Commotion on King, so our King Street location kind of started. He had already started doing the co-working concept here at 302, and he was already seeing some of the success, but he knew that there were challenges with being here. One, location.
Right.
Everybody talks about real estate, location, location, location.
Exactly. Yeah.
Location's a little bit tough here, and the layout is a little bit interesting.
Sure.
So he said, I want to do the second project. I want to bring on a team because I want to create a community. Because by the end of it, it's really about building Hamilton's community.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So we said, okay, let's look at the King location. It's a 10,000 square foot footprint.
Well, see, that space is amazing because it's the old Spectator building, and my dad worked for the Spectator, so would have worked in that place. So when I was touring it for the first time, it was amazing to walk through and go, imagine this is where my dad had his office out of, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say, it's an amazing space. I encourage you, if you can, and you're in Hamilton, visit Commotion 302 on Cumberland Ave, visit Commotion on King. It's between what streets? Between
Catherine and John.
Catherine and John
On King Street.
On King Street. Some great spaces, so go and visit and see what it's all about. But what would you say in your past has really set you up best to do what you do now? Was it sometime in your high school age or in your university or while you were away in China? What do you think really you're doing what you're doing today because of, what's your drive? Because you obviously have a thought process of, anything's possible and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because you're taking on some very ambitious projects and you're making them happen. Walk through the space and you're seeing it's doing it. Right?
Recently I've been hearing a lot of talk, and a lot of it is rightly so, where women have hit a glass ceiling, women are paid less, and all that stuff. But one thing that kind of happened in my childhood was I ended up developing psoriasis and arthritis, so psoriatic arthritis. And at a young age, you can't, when I played a ton of sports when I was little. There was one summer where I was just bedridden because I couldn't get up out of bed.
No way.
But when you're young, you kind of feel sorry for yourself. And also, part of an Asian family too, everybody else feels sorry for you too. And Asians are very like this, right? So they end up, all of my parents' friends were always like, poor you.
Right.
I can see your psoriasis. I can see that you can't. So I felt like there was the pity. It was totally the pity. And but one of my mom's friends, and it's a shame that I can't remember her now, but when I was younger, she actually said something really interesting to me. She said, I'm sorry that you have psoriasis and arthritis, but I kind of feel like this is a blessing for you because you will now know hardship and you will know that you can overcome this.
Wow.
And
that's powerful.
yeah, and she's like, I do feel sorry for you because you have to go through this so young, but I feel you are destined for great things because now you know what hard is.
Right.
And
still survive.
And that was one of those things where, it's not like I'm dying from cancer or anything like that, but that was a defining moment for me because it gave me optimism. And it gave me a sense and a purpose because it was saying, you can do whatever you want because you know what not walking is like. You know what physical sort of disfiguration is like. So if you can get over those things and get over yourself, you can potentially do whatever it is.
This is so valuable. Thank you for sharing that and being open and honest with that. So that's amazing. That life lesson so long ago carried you through step by step and step, and is that fuel for you today to just accomplish?
I gotta say though too, I also have a bit of ignorance, which
Okay.
I love.
Explain what you mean by ignorance.
I love the saying, ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
Because there are some people, they're very attuned and very aware, especially very aware to outside factors, perhaps criticism, just that type of talk.
Sure.
I'm quite oblivious to a lot of that.
Right.
So this is why I appreciate that I have a weird little ignorance is bliss kind of thing, because I just, you know what, forget all the talk.
Right.
Forget all of this bullshit. I got shit to do. I gotta go forward.
Exactly.
I gotta do stuff, you know? So that's what makes
Exactly.
it a lot more
Awesome.
easy.
Amazing. That life lesson right there alone, and I hope that anybody who's listening may be going through some tough times. I teach people about friction, traction, and using that hard stuff in your life to move you forward and help you become a better and stronger person. Obviously, you've done that, and congratulations. Not only not pitting yourself, but overcoming that and pursuing, and now being in a place where you can actually help so many other people, right? And get them going and then help them achieve their success and help them learn that, they might be hitting a rough time right now, but they'll get through it, right? And they'll achieve and they'll succeed. So I hope you will not be afraid of sharing this story with other people in your call, in your own space, but I think that was amazing to share that. So what's on the horizons? Because I know you guys don't stand still too long. You've got some big projects. What's in the future for Commotion Family and Tammy Hwang yourself? Mayor of the city, would we say?
Mayor's a tough gig too.
It is a very
You
tough.
know what? Mayor's a tough gig. And I appreciate Mayor Eisenberger for all the work that he does right now. So you know what? Mayor's a tough gig.
Kudos, Fred.
Yeah. So Commotion Group, we are all about building community.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we know that our economy is built on the backs of small business. So that's why we want to do everything that we can to support small businesses.
Sure.
We want to look at growth and expansion.
So you're looking at new space?
Yeah, we're going to be. So let's not say right now we are.
No. But it's in
the future.
Yeah, okay.
Sustainability, so we want to make sure that we're sustainable.
Absolutely.
And we're looking.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit quickly. So what's one of the needs of the Commotion Group? You need more tenants? Are you looking for more office renters and that?
So the value proposition for co-working spaces is for all of these businesses to have temporary short-term leases.
Okay.
Memberships. And they have access to a whole lot of amenities. The idea is that they can grow their business. So that's a very valuable or a very powerful value proposition
Absolutely.
to our customers.
Right.
That's not a great value proposition for us. Because what happens is that we get turnover.
Sure.
A ton of turnover.
Revolving door kind of thing. Yeah.
And so that's the best part of co-working and on the part of our clients, but it's the worst part for us as a business.
Okay.
So we're constantly going to be pushing and trying to get as many
Pipeline.
companies coming through the door.
Okay.
So my ask to you and to the rest of our Facebook family is to say, if you know any clients that need some co-working space, come on by to hang out with us at Commotion.
Yeah, seriously, I've introduced so many people to this space, and some of them have taken advantage of finding an office, getting a desk, and because they see not only it's a space outside of their home and it's a place to go to do work, but is that whole community that they're becoming a part of and networked into, and it's this, scratching each other's back. So phenomenal, and I know there's going to be great things in the future, and we'll definitely have you back on, and we'll see what's happening there. We do need to wrap up this session, but as I do with every session with our ambitious city, Hamilton's known as the ambitious city. If you could use a word besides ambitious to describe Hamilton or Hamiltonians, what would your word be?
I think Hamilton is the underdog.
Underdog. That underdog. Okay, this is a first one for us. Okay, because I've had creative, I've had collaborative. Okay, so underdog. Why would you?
Everyone roots for the underdog.
Okay, true.
And the underdog is the scrappiest out of them all because they're going to know how to work hard, play hard, and achieve results.
That's awesome.
Because everybody at the end of the day, they just want the underdog to win.
And do you think that comes from your past too? Like almost being underestimated and maybe underestimating yourself until that lady said that comment to you and then you realized, even though I'm an underdog, I'm going to achieve, and any underdog who's facing hardship can achieve.
Exactly.
Right? With the right type of help.
And everybody
Right.
knows an underdog.
Yes.
Anytime. There's so many situations where you're watching two teams play each other and you know which one's the underdog.
I always love the win.
Exactly.
I always love the win. Because I love seeing them rise above and take people by surprise. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's more emotional and it's more gratifying when they do win because they've worked so hard.
And
right?
that everything you just said is exactly what is epitomized today in Hamilton.
That's cool.
People are working really hard,
Yeah.
and you know what? We have enjoyed a measure of success right now, but there's always more work to
So
do.
you would see that in the real estate. People really underestimated Hamilton, and now look, we have people coming from Toronto buying it.
That's real
And so,
estate. We're
yeah.
looking at some businesses.
Yeah.
Some of our businesses have done extremely well within their areas, like Mabel's Labels and
Right.
Factory. These are companies that are homegrown here in Hamilton, but are now achieving, or Peregrine Labs, achieving Academy Awards on an international stage.
Yeah, congratulations to all of those mentioned. Mabel's Labels, Factory,
Peregrine
and
Labs,
Peregrine Labs,
Type 1
absolutely.
Studios. I can go on. I'm so proud of what we have here in Hamilton.
So the underdog city, I like it.
We're getting there.
Fantastic. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. You've got a family to take care of businesses and so many others, but you took time. And for sharing your story and that message, I really, again, want to come back to that, is that, we all have our hurdles, we all have our obstacles in life to overcome, but to use that, right? And to leverage that for your success. And once you've known hardship, then you never look back, right? You just keep moving forward from there. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it for Our Ambitious City. We'll see you again next Friday, 10 a.m. Tune in, and we'll see who our special guest is that day. Take care. Bye now.